what's up? This is Dave from Revocation, and you're watching Italian Magazine. Yes, so far we're about a little over a week into the tour. It's been awesome so far. The crowds have been really great, packed houses every night. We toured with Aeon before, so we're already good friends with those guys, so it's nice to see them again. And all the guys in Cannibal Corpse are really great as well, so it's been nice getting to know them and hanging out with them because they're such a legendary band. Yeah, I think this is probably going to be our biggest European tour ever. You know, we've toured with Dying Fetus a couple times, and those were always big shows, and we did the Black Dye Murder tour, and that was a big tour as well, but I think this one overall is going to be the most packed, you know, houses that we've ever played to. Yeah, I think this is our fourth time playing in France. We played in like Paris before, and like outside of Paris. So we love the French crowds. They're really rowdy, and we've always had really great shows here. So I'm really looking forward to tonight. Yeah, you know, I think it's always tough whenever you're opening up for like such a legendary band like Cannibal, but you know, I think death metal in general, like the fans are pretty open-minded. You know, to like that really extreme kind of metal. You know, what draws a lot of people, what drew me to Cannibal Corpse was the technicality and the riffing and the little twists and turns they throw in there. And I think that, you know, we're not as brutal as Cannibal Corpse, but we have a lot of intricate riffing and technical parts, and the drumming's really interesting. So I think, you know, if you're a fan of that kind of music, there's definitely elements to our sound that you can get into. So, you know, I think the crowds have been really liking what we've been doing in between songs. And, you know, usually a good response when we finish playing. So it seems like if they're not familiar with us, you know, we're winning them over by the end of the night. You mean like more people coming up and buying t-shirts and stuff? Yeah, I mean, I think there's always a bigger rush when you're done playing than rather than before. I mean, some nights it depends. Sometimes people, I think it depends on the area too. Like sometimes people come up and buy stuff right away. Sometimes people want to watch you play. They don't want to hold on to a t-shirt all night, so they'll come up and buy it at the end of the night. It kind of depends. Sometimes people like to buy the shirt and wear it like right then and there, you know, so. Yeah, I think it's affected everyone, you know, I mean, if you look, record sales are down, I mean, across the board. I was reading an article the other day that was talking about, in the US we have what's called SoundScan, which has the Billboard chart, and that's how you kind of see where your position is. And this past year is the first year, I think ever, that there hasn't been a platinum, you know, million-selling records album. So it's like, it's affecting everyone, but it especially affects the smaller bands because they don't have that big push from the label and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I think that if you really like a band, you really want to support the band, you know, you pick up the CD when it comes out, you go to a show, because it's so expensive to tour. I mean, just to come over to Europe, you know, costs us thousands of dollars. I mean, we have to pay for our own plane tickets, we have to pay for the bus, we have to pay for transportation and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, it's not like we're rich off this, and, you know, you not buying a CD doesn't matter. Like, it really does help the band, it does count, because, you know, that's a return for the label on their investment, and how to, you know, that's what keeps bands going, is, you know, if they start falling, then it's like the label doesn't really want to work with them anymore, but they continue to grow, and it's like, alright, cool, you can go record with who you want to record with, and you can, you know, we'll give you that tour support to help you get on this bigger tour or whatever. So it does, the support does make a difference, but unfortunately, just across the board, it's the downloading is, you know, affects everyone. Yeah, I mean, we all have to work when we're home. Yeah, so like, I teach private lessons and stuff like that. Sometimes I teach in a music school. Dan works at an animal hospital. Brett, he works at a restaurant. So like, we all have our different jobs and stuff like that. I mean, I would love to get to the point where Revocation is my main source of income, because that means I can just fully focus on music, you know, all the time. But just the world we live in today, it's harder and harder to be sort of an artist and really make a living off your art, which is, you know, it's part of the times. Yeah. We've been playing a couple new songs live, so the crowd really seems to be digging it. We're playing the title track and also Madness Opus, which is like a really, really heavy song. I think it fits in with the tour really well that we're on right now. I think it's a natural progression and evolution for the band. I mean, personally, we all think it's our best one yet. We didn't really change up too much in terms of how we compose. It's sort of a similar process for us. I think we just get better every time. It's like, you know, refining something every time you get a little bit better at it. But yeah, I think it's a very unique record. I think it's varied. It's got, if you're a fan of Revocation, I think you'll be a big fan of this new record because it has all the elements that make up Revocation, but just to that next level. Yeah. It was pretty similar, but I mean, I think we try to experiment and push ourselves with every release. So, I mean, I would say on this one, I really pushed myself as a vocalist, adding different elements in here and there. I mean, I think it's probably my best vocal performance to date, as well as, you know, guitar playing. Different parts, I've added more atmosphere with the vocals, you know, different element in there just to create a different mood or vibe, and I think that against the riffs, it elevates the riffs to a different dimension, because when you're hearing maybe something, you know, a more melodic vocal over it, it kind of puts a different melody over the riff, and then you sort of hear it in a different way. So that was something that I wanted to try to do, because the riffs called for that. It was like, okay, this part I don't want to just only have a scream over it, I want to have something more melodic here to kind of bring out a different element in the music. So that was definitely something we thought about going into it. Yeah, I mean, I think that the goal is we always strive to be cohesive with our music and have it flow, so that you can just sort of listen to a song and take the whole song as one sort of musical statement. And I think we really spent a lot of time on the songwriting on this newest release to make sure that things flow and things go from, you know, if it's something like a lighter part, when it kicks into that heavy part, you know, that it, even if it sort of comes out of nowhere, it still has a purpose to it. And it still feels like it was, you know, an informed sort of musical decision. So we always try with that with every release, but I think on this newest one, it's our best songwriting to date, and everything flows really well. Yeah, I love Jeff Waters' playing. He's definitely an influence of mine. You know, I grew up listening to like Never Never Land, and Alice in Hell, and those records. He's got a really almost playful way that it's the way he approaches soloing is very technical, but he's got so many great melodies in there as well. You know, his solos are very memorable, and that was something that I took away from his playing, is that, you know, you can be technical and have, you know, all of that sort of flashy playing in there, but, you know, a good solo is nothing if it doesn't have something that really draws you in and is memorable. Mm-hmm. Well, I think that we try to add contrast where we can, right? So if it's, you know, in a song like Madness Opus, for instance, you know, it has that kind of break in the middle, and then it kicks in with the solo, and it has this very sort of epic vibe. But then the solo section on Deathless has more of like a rock and sort of straightforward vibe. So we like to play with different elements, so that sometimes it'll be, you know, kind of more of like a in-your-face live, we're just like having fun, and then other times it's more of like a serious, just more of a serious tone to it. So I think it depends on the song, but ultimately, you know, we have fun playing these songs live, and we want to try to capture a little bit of that live energy if we can, like in the studio, like. So that way, you know, it doesn't sound sterile. You know, you want your solos or your riffs to have some flavor and have some life to them. It doesn't want to be just like this, you know, very clinical, sterile sound, because then there's no life to it. So. I think it depends on what the band is going for. You know, like working with Zeus, I mean, I think he really nailed our sound. He gave us a really good production, but it also wasn't overly sterile. Sometimes some of the like really modern metal production is like, it's almost too sterile for my taste. Like everything sort of sounds, you know, replaced, and like the drums don't sound real. So we try to really go for a natural sound with the drums, and you know, use real amps and stuff like that. So when it works for some bands and it doesn't work for others, I mean, you know, if it was like black metal or something like that you kind of want to have like more of like a raw. You don't want it to be overproduced. You want the vocals to have this kind of, you know, reverb, and the guitars to be really abrasive and stuff like that. Or same thing with like if it's like a, you know, doom or like sludge record or something like that. You want it to sound dirty and just like dripping with buzz and distortion. You don't want it to sound like super pristine and perfect, and you know, everything's edited in Pro Tools. It's got to feel that live vibe to it. So it depends on, you know, I think it depends on the genre, because it depends on the band. Like, you know, Meshuggah have like such a unique sound to them. You know, they have that kind of almost mechanical sound, but it really works for them because their music is so rhythmic, and they've been doing it for so long. So it depends. But for me, it's always cool when bands have their own sound. You know, when you can put on a record like, you know, like a Mastodon record or something like that, and it has like a certain production that like, you know, fits with them. Or you put on like a, you know, Dark Throne record that like, you know, is super lo-fi, but it works for them, you know. So. Well, some of this stuff is muscle memory, you know, like after a while you kind of, if I don't play the songs for a while, like let's say we're off tour and it's like 2 months before we play, and when we come back, the first practice we're always like super rusty and it's like, oh shit. But then like by the second practice we're like, oh, this sounds pretty good. And then by the third practice we're like, oh, we got this. So, you know, it comes back pretty quickly. For me, like a lot of stuff that I work on, like I'm constantly working on different technique building stuff, different sort of theory. Like I work a lot on jazz when I'm home because, you know, I'm playing the same set every night of metal music. So when I come home, it's kind of nice to work on like a different genre of something that's more based around improvisation. So I'm getting my brain working in that way. But I'm always working constantly on music. I think if you don't sort of, if you think you've got it all figured out, you know, you really don't. So it's all about always pushing yourself to get to that next level. Because for me, practicing is fun. I like to play guitar. I feel like if I don't pick up the guitar when I'm home, like I get like anxious or something like that. Like it's part of my daily routine. Like it's like some people wake up and have a cup of coffee. Like I wake up and start playing guitar. So for me, it always, I'm drawn to it. So it's practicing isn't like a chore for me. It's fun. It's tough to say. I mean, I think the next record is just going to be a continuation. You know, we always want to have the song is the most important part to us, no matter what. You know, we don't want to just cram a bunch of technical riffs together and put it out there. And you know, we really want to be more thoughtful with the way we compose and stuff like that. So I think there'll always be a level of technicality, you know, of those sort of unexpected progressions. But we never want to lose sight of writing a song. You know, I think Cannibal Corpse do that. You know, when you listen to, I was actually talking with Alex Webster last night about, you know, they're a very technical band, but they, you know, they have different motifs that they bring back in their music. You know, even though the riffs are super hard to play, and you're like, you watch it like, oh my god, but there is still a song there. You know, they have choruses, they have things that they come back to, ideas that they repeat. Sometimes I'll just take a piece of it and kind of twist it around, but it's still in there. So, you know, I think that's, you know, an interesting way to approach it. You can be very technical, but you can also write a good song, and that is, you know, my goal is to always write a song and not let the technicality kind of get in the way of that. I've had songs where I've got like a really technical riff that I love, but it didn't fit with the vibe of the song, so I took it out. You know, because I don't want to force something in there just to be like, oh, look at this. You know, if it doesn't fit with the song, I'll just save it for later. I'll save it for something else, and it fits better with that vibe, rather than try to force, you know, a square crank into a round hole, as they say.